Ma'am, please start. Thank you. Ma'am, you are on mute. Jayshree ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
Sanjeevani, I welcome you all. Every pediatrician gives the classic advice that eat healthy and play more to a obese child. But in today's world of fast food and fast lives, managing obesity is not just that simple. And interestingly, centuries ago, obesity was considered as a symbol of prosperity and wealth. Today's medicine recognizes it as one of the most complex chronic diseases affecting the health globally. It is a high time to understand that we should not blame the person for his or her choices. It is our responsibility as a clinician to replace the blame with evidence based answer to this problem. We all witness an interesting debate today on whether we should medicate or only motivate. Motivation is sufficient in such cases. Uh, I now request Dr. Sanjeev Joshi, our dynamic MAHA president, to give his words of wisdom. Dr. Sanjeev Joshi, sir.
नमस्कार, मी डॉक्टर संजीव जोशी, महाराष्ट्र आय पी प्रेसिडेंट 2026. समस्त बाल सखी ग्रुपच्या सदस्यांनाच खूप खूप अभिवादन, खूप खूप धन्यवाद ही ऍक्टिव्हिटी घेतल्याबद्दल. आणि आय ऑल्सो सी ऑल द माय सेक्रेटरी डॉक्टर रेणू हियर, then other OBs and EBs of the Maharashtra IP. And the best thing for me today is my dear Vaini, Dr. Anjali Sonavne, is in accident. And so, uh, that future is being shaped by an epidemic, which is not which is not because of some virus or some bacteria or some other uh, reason. It is nothing but the obesity, and especially the adolescent obesity, the childhood obesity. And it is a multifactorial one. Uh, the environment, the food habit, the latest menace of the screen time, they are all adding to the not to the physical, but now it is getting physiological. So to address this issue, uh, Bal Sakhi has taken this very important subject. So I must congratulate the entire group for taking this subject for debate or for discussion. And we have eminent two Dandiya players, Dr. Ajinkya and Dr. Tushar. One will be motivating and one another will be medicating. मला असं वाटतं की दोघांची सांगड आजकाल जरुरी आहे, कारण मोटिवेशन खूप अत्यंत जरुरी आहे, पण त्याच्यासोबत मेडिकेशनचा पण सपोर्ट लागणार आहे. So let us pledge as a Maharashtra IPN that we will definitely fight this epidemic very effectively as we are fighting the other epidemic also. So again, wishing all the attendees on the virtual platform enjoy learning, enjoy this Dandiya. And of course, Ajinkya and Tushar at the end of this Dandiya will be delivering you very important messages. So thank you, Bal Sakhi group. Thank you, everyone. Uh, over to Jayashree.
Jayashree ma'am, are you there? I
Hello,
think she
Jayashree ma'am.
Jayashree, I think she has lost the connection.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Joshi, sir, President MAHA for the welcome address. And as the debate Dandiya is related to the obesity, and we know that about the 8 billion reasons to act, that was the theme of this, that is the theme of this year. And so we are having a debate with it to either motivate or to treat with medications or not. And we will be hearing our stalwarts, Dr. Tushar Godbole, which is a famous endocrinologist and also very good singer from Nashik, and also Ajinkya Patil, the young dynamic endocrinologist from Jalgaon, and Dr. Rajesh Joshi sir, our expert or the judge who is there. And I would like to congratulate the team of Bal Sakhi Sanjeevini, Dr. Jayashree Deshpande ma'am, as well as Dr. Sushma Savya madam, Shilpa, and Dr. Sonone, who have taken the all the efforts for arranging this today's webinar. One or two instructions for this is today's one MMC point is there. So a request is there. All of you should be present till the end of the session, as the MMC observer will take the attendance. And for the IAP members, you have to put the IAP number, membership number, along with your MMC name and mobile. And for the non-IAPMs, you can put your name, MMC number, and the mobile number. Thank you so much. And over to you. Has Madam joined? Jayashree Madam has joined?
Ma'am is there, but her connection is not
Okay.
stable.
So
Anjali,
I think we will take over from
Anjali,
here.
Anjali ma'am.
Anjali.
Anjali, you take over from here.
Unmute
Please
कर. Anjali, unmute कर.
welcome as the MOC of this program, and please take over the program further. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's debate on childhood obesity. We are thrilled to see such a huge turnout in our virtual room today. It is a distinct honor to introduce clinical authorities Dr. Tushar Godbole, Dr. Ajinkya Patil, and Dr. Rajesh Joshi, who have spent over a number of years reshaping how we understand childhood obesity. Next. We are honored to have such articulate and dedicated experts debating a topic that sits at the very heart of pediatric medicine. Joining us tonight is Dr. Ajinkya Patil, an incisive clinician who balances the cold hard facts of biology with visionary outlook on childhood health. He is consultant pediatric endocrinologist, assistant professor and project designer on childhood obesity prevention IMA-MS 2026. हार्मोन्सच्या खेळातला ज्यांना उमगलाय सारामर्म, बालपणाचे आरोग्य रक्षण हाच ज्यांचा परमधर्म, असे डॉक्टर अजिंक्य पाटील प्रस्तावाच्या बाजूने बोलतील. To present a compelling case for the power of human spirit, we have an empowering expert who believes that the best prescription is often written on the playground. Dr. Tushar Godbole, who is an intellectual heavyweight, a true polymath in the field of life sciences, investigative researcher, prolific writer and author, esteemed faculty and associate professor at VPMC, Nasik. औषधांच्या कुपीत नाही तर मैदानात ज्यांना उद्या दिसतो, स्वयंशिस्त आणि कष्टातच ज्यांचा पूर्ण विश्वास असतो, असे डॉक्टर तुषार गोडबोले हे प्रस्तावाच्या विरुद्ध बोलतील. डॉक्टर राजेश जोशी is a person tasked with maintaining the rhythm, fairness, and intellectual rigor of Debate-Dandiya, who is an impartial, poised, equitable, astute, harmonious, and is profound author, guide to postgrads, have many publications, and is a consultant pediatric endocrinologist. दोन टोकांच्या विचारांना जो योग्य दिशा देतो, तर्काच्या दांडियात बुद्धीची लकेर उमटवतो. डॉक्टर राजेश जोशी आजचे सूत्रधार खरोखर भारी. त्यांच्या शब्दांच्या तालावर ही चर्चा होईल न्यारी. I promise you all the debate Dandiya where the clash of ideas will be rhythmic and sharp as the strikes of Dandiya. Over to you, sir. Dr. Ajinkya Patil.
Kindly
Welcome,
unmute yourself, sir.
Rajesh Joshi sir. Welcome on behalf of Maharashtra IP.
Should I share the screen as well, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is this visible?
Yes, screen is visible, sir.
Okay, so a
And it
very
is
good
visible.
evening to everybody. I want to sincerely thank MAHA IP and Bal Sakhi Sanjeevani for this very wonderful initiative. And it is an honor for me actually to present my motion in front of my own teacher, Dr. Rajesh Joshi sir, and also my opposition today, Dr. Tushar Godbole sir, who's an exceptional academician and also like a mentor to me. So while we debate opposing motions today, I think by the end of the session, we will both emerge on the right side of science today. And today, we are tackling one of the most pervasive pediatric endocrine crisis, that is the pediatric obesity. Now, since decades, we've been following the wait and watchful waiting approach, and we've landed here today. And today I'm going to present some undeniable clinical evidence which shows why biology demands much more than just motivational training and much more than just watchful waiting. So this is the topic today. But before I start away, let me first put out a disclaimer that I do not endorse medicating each and every child living with obesity and walking into a clinic. And these medications are not supposed to be a replacement. They are only supposed to be an adjunct physiological enabler designed to work strictly alongside intensive lifestyle and nutritional modifications. And these are supposed to be used for targeted population and not universally. This intervention is reserved exclusively for severe, established, and advancing comorbidities where lifestyle protocols are clinically insufficient. So the scope of this motion will strictly entail to children with severe obesity with or without complications. So now, before we go into the science, when we see an adolescent like this sitting in our clinic with such severe insulin resistance, you do his biochemistry, you see SGPTs of 74 units per liter, total cholesterol of about 248, triglycerides which are high 182, and HDL which is low. What do? If you hand out diet charts and if you tell them to try harder, this is almost akin to reading, trying to read a safety manual, fire safety manual while the fire is actually burning. What we need to do and what we've learned over the years now is to actually use the fire extinguisher, which is medications, to put out this biological blaze first, and then use the fire safety manual, which is therapy, for future prevention and sustenance of adequate and healthy weight. So why medicate a lifestyle disorder, we must ask. It's because it isn't. It's not a lifestyle disorder anymore. This definition was there probably decades back or a couple of 3 decades back. Now, the highest authorities in the world pertaining to clinical endocrinology and obesity have told us that Obesity Medicine Association also defines obesity as a chronic, relapsing, multifactorial neurobehavioral disorder or disease. Even our own IAP 2023 guidelines on pediatric obesity specifically quote say that obesity is a chronic disease which is characterized by excess or dysfunctional fat, that is adiposity, which impairs health, leading to long-term morbidity and even early mortality. So even the American Academy of Clinical Endocrinology, AAC, now has removed the term obesity and coined a new term instead of it, which is adiposity-based chronic disease, which is a complex, progressive, and chronic neuroendocrine disorder or disease. So this is no more a lifestyle disorder, but rather a neuroendocrine relapsing chronic disease which we are dealing with at this moment. So even the sheer, if you look at the global prevalence, the rampant rise in obesity is extremely alarming. There are about 39 million children under the age of 5 who are overweight. About 200 million school-going children globally are overweight or obese, and nearly 50% of these children reside in Asia. So Asia is the epicenter of the new global epidemic, that is obesity. And if you look at the Indian statistics, we actually rank second throughout the world in the in prevalence of obesity. And it is projected that about 27 million children living with obesity by 2030 will be from India, and about that constitutes about 11% of global burden. If you look at state-wise prevalence, and if you look at the combined prevalence, the national combined prevalence stands at about 19.3%, which was only about 15.3 just in the last survey that was there in 2016. So it has risen to such a extent. If you look at the NFHS 3 and NFHS 5 data, and if you compare those, we can see that the percentage of under 5 overweight to currently has risen by about 127%. The adolescent girls who are obese have the number has risen by about 125%, and the ones about adolescent boys, the prevalence has risen by a shocking 288%. So this said, by 2030, it is expected that 1 in 10 of the world's obese children will be Indian by 2030. So this brings us to the old paradigm that old thought that we used to think watchful waiting, time and motivation alone will help and cure this. Now this tracking trap shows us why obese children, about 55% of them will still remain obese during their adolescence. About 80% of these will still remain obese during their adulthood. And about 70% of these are still going to remain obese by the age of 30 or after the age of 30. So there is a relative risk of more than 5 for severe lifelong adult obesity when established in adolescence. So relying here on time and motivation alone for severe pediatric obesity is no longer a conservative approach. It is, in my words, a clinically doomed strategy. If you look at the immediate complications, this forest plot very clearly tells us that we are no longer looking at anticipated complications. When we see a child or adolescent sitting in a clinic with advanced obesity, cardiovascular remodeling is already occurring in real time. If you look at the data and the complication risk, the ALT and SGPT rates are there, the prevalence of is about 34% of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in a child who's obese. About 45% of children who are obese suffer from obstructive sleep apnea. The metabolic syndrome rates are again very high. It's about 13.6% in overweight, and about 46.4% of metabolic syndrome is seen in obese Indian children between the ages of 10 to 18 years. If you look at PCOS, the prevalence is again staggering. It's about 3 to 11%. And you look at dyslipidemia and hypertension, again, the prevalence is somewhere between 5 to 30%. Now, not to lose focus on the medical part, but it also has a lot of impact on psychological aspect. So about 32% the risk is there of developing depression compared to non-obese children. So this itself tells us that excess adiposity triggers multisystemic damage decades before adult symptoms. So when we start seeing symptoms, that cascade has already begun long back. So we should not wait and proactively act in time to save this. So this brings us to the very important aspect to understand the Indian thin fat phenotype. So if you look at this image, that's the very famously known YY paradox. That's Dr. Yagnik and Russian Dr. Yudkin. If you look at the BMIs, they're the same, 22.3. But if you look at the body fat percentage, they're extremely different. So for the same amount of obesity or for the same amount of weight, the Indian counterparts or the South Asian counterparts try to accumulate more and more fat. This puts us at a very high risk of developing cardiovascular comorbidities and complications much earlier than our Western counterparts. So this graph very properly categorizes and tells us that there's a very big adiposity mismatch. And in 25% of cases, normal BMI, according to the Western standards, is actually compatible with excess body fat in Asian population. So this mandates early risk manifestation, and this mandates early screening for risk manifestation. So with this and taking this into account, IIP recently came up with extended BMI charts because the scales are tipping, weights are going up rampantly, and that's why they've now established and to stratify this disease in a most structured manner, they've come up with two more cutoffs for obesity, that is class 2 and class 3 obesity. So class 2 is severe obesity, which is about more than 120% to 140% of 27th adult equivalent, or BMI between 35 to 40, whichever is lower. And class 3 obesity is more than 140% of the 27th adult equivalent, or BMI more than 40, whichever is lower. So by the time an adolescent with severe obesity presents in your OPD, the cardiometabolic cascade has already begun, the time is already ticking, and you've already lost half the plot. Now is the time to act fast and quickly to save that child from getting doomed into that cascade. So for decades, we've thought that overcoming severe obesity was simply a matter of lack of willpower. So this flawed paradigm of caloric deficit with willpower has been properly thrown away, and it has been identified and acknowledged by the highest authorities in endocrinology and all the scientific societies, that this obesity is no more simply a matter of child simply trying harder. It is actually a neurobiological disease. So this starts right from when the child is not even born. So when the child is inside the womb, there is a lot of intrauterine fetal exposure, and this shapes the neuroendocrine pathways, and this shapes the adipocyte development right from when the child is in the womb. Now, if you look at this, you'll understand that this intrauterine programming, that is the development of developmental origins of health and adult disease, that alters the set point for weight sustainment. Then that is coupled with generational epigenetics. So we are generationally a thrifty phenotype. We come from a famine generation, which has now come into an era of modernization and hypercaloric environment, that is the obesogenic environment. And this is what is leading to severe adolescent clinical presentation that we see today in our OPD daily. So to put it simply, severe obesity is a catastrophic biological mismatch. It is not a behavioral choice curable by motivation alone. So this shows there are three areas in our brain, which execute and which regulate three different models of eating. The one is homeostatic eating, which is eating for hunger, that is there in the hypothalamus. One is hedonic eating, that is eating for pleasure, that is in the mesolimbic system. And the last one is executive function, which is in the prefrontal cortex, which decides whether to eat or not. So what happens when a child with severe obesity presents, or when a child has severe obesity? This homeostatic drive, which is driven by hypothalamus, because of excessive adipocytes, there's excessive leptin production. Eventually, there is leptin resistance, which mandates, or which forces the brain to feel or read that there is zero fuel available in the body, and that triggers starvation panic, leading to a signal that mandates, or that asks the child to eat more to maintain the calorie preservation. Now, this hedonic eating area that is regulated by the mesolimbic system, that's basically a reward system. So these ultra processed foods override this satiety, and we are in a situation, we are in an environment where everything and anything that we come across is obesogenic, or we are in a highly obesogenic environment which simply overrides our hedonic drive. Now, to fight this off, we have this last area, that is the executive function, that is there in the prefrontal cortex. And this is now left alone to fight with these two giants. So an immature and easily fatigued defense of an adolescence usually fails over a long time when asked to do it only simply by means of motivation and lifestyle therapy alone. So conscious motivation cannot chronically override subconscious survival biology. This is my simple point before I start off with the most important part. So, what is the biological response to these interventions? naturally, when we go into a hypocaloric or intensive dietary restriction stage, that is usually subscribed and usually what recommended for children with severe obesity, the body senses it as a lot of energy gap. It drives up the orexigenic hormones, that is the stomach ramps up ghrelin production, driving intense hypophagia. And that also reduces the anorexigenic hormones, the ones like satiety signals, which are like leptin, GLP-1s, and PYY. Now, what happens to the resting metabolic rate? Yeah, earlier it was hyper efficient. However, now there is a significant drop in resting metabolic rate, and that drop is exponentially more than what the amount of weight that is lost. So less calories are burned for the same task, which initially burned more calories. So survival mechanism versus intensive lifestyle therapy, you can guess who wins. And now to treat this was the intervention staircase which has been now adopted in 2023 and in the previous recommendation cells also. So we start off with prevention plus programs. Then we go on to structured weight management, which includes multidisciplinary team, dietitian, psychologist, and this targets gradual weight loss over 6 months. Now, if this fails, we have to go towards comprehensive multidisciplinary intervention, that is specialized endocrinology care, energy restricted supervised diets. This is what I'm talking about is recommended for children with severe obesity. And then if this fails, we have to go towards tertiary care intervention, that is addition of pharmacotherapy or bariatric surgery. Now, keeping this in mind and acknowledging that obesity is a chronic disease, even IAP 2023 guidelines have now come up with an algorithm which says that severe obesity, which is class 2 or class 3, if it fails in a prevention plus program, you have to advance directly to comprehensive and multidisciplinary intervention. And if this fails over 6 months, you have to resort to pharmacotherapy. So even the authority and the highest clinical evidence is now suggesting that we may or we need to resort to medications if the lifestyle intervention therapies fail over 6 months. So and this is a very interesting trial which was conducted in the US, a heavily funded, well-researched, very well-structured trial trying to use motivational interviewing and family-based therapies to address obesity. And what this team entailed was the eligible families were between the children with age 3 to 11 with BMI more than 85th centile. It required pediatric clinician, and they required to have 4 intended in-person or telehealth counseling sessions over 2 to 2.5 years. SMS system was there. Then registered dietitians were there who were intended or were required to conduct at least 6 telephone counseling sessions, and parent portal programs were initiated. So the core goal of this trial was to target discrete behaviors, including sweetened beverages, eating out, screen time, and physical activity. Simply what my opposition is going to talk about. And how did this fare? The clinical reversal, if you see in this particular trial, intervention youth experienced a greater relative weight gain instead of weight loss. So there was the BMI from the baseline to the end was higher or had risen by about 0.5 units instead of dropping. Again, there was about 1 kg absolute excess weight gain over 2 years relative to usual care. So to sum it up, there were no significant or overall benefit to the intervention. Instead, this suggested and revealed a statistically significant reversal effect. So let us see if this will actually work in India. So this trial or intensive health and behavioral lifestyle therapy requires a pediatrician and a pediatric endocrinologist in the team. It requires a registered dietitian. It requires an exercise physiologist or physical therapist, and it requires behavioral psychologist or social worker. And now this is intended to work at least for 6 months, and this requires at least 26 plus contact hours, so face-to-face contact hours of 26 hours. Imagine in your busy OPD, will you be able to give so much time to a child? And again, how many centers of excellence are actually there in India or even in Maharashtra to conduct such a trial and such a structured therapy? What factors will affect in India? There are high costs, lack of resources. Simply a person or a clinician sitting in tier 2 or tier 3 city will never be able to afford or be able to find registered dietitians, physiotherapists, behavioral psychologists in their team. Very few trained specialists. Again, patient adherence is a big problem. This will lead to fragmented care, a lot of cultural perceptions. We're in fact in a time where we have to invest more time fighting off quacks and all those uh, alternative medicine therapies in this case. And again, there are a lot of logistical barriers which again will lead to difficult and prove difficult for the implementation of this strategy in India as well. Now, this is the Western model where the clinician targets parent who eventually targets the child. In India, this gets completely altered and faltered because in the epicenter of any family, who the decision making person of any family is the grandparent, and it starts right from there. And what do they do exactly? They are usually associated with food rewards, with all the other. They usually pose as one of the greatest obstacle in bringing out this change. So what happened when these children discontinued? The reversal started immediately, and even a child who was given lifestyle motivation therapy started picking up weight, and you can see the loss of progress in an unstructured environment when the child enters. So it is not, this proves that it is not entirely sustainable unless it has been carried out for a long time in a very structured manner. So this is simply a depiction of a child whose early obesity, and here probably intensive health and behavioral lifestyle therapies may help reverse or avoid comorbidities which are not yet formed. But when a child is already in a state of severe obesity, is already down in the pit, there he requires, and here motivation itself in isolated format is not alone, not adequate. So here it requires comprehensive treatment, where again medicine intervention or medical intervention is necessary to bring that child back to normal first, and then thereon all the intensive health and lifestyle behavioral therapies may help them sustain future weight. So again, medicines are supposed to be enablers. They are never supposed to be shortcuts. I do not endorse them to be used instead of lifestyle therapies. The old 20th century model worked on first introducing dietary changes, lifestyle modifications, then failing, then waiting, introducing it again, and then again waiting and again failing. Now, the new paradigm shows that it has to be used alongside lifestyle treatment. This will lead to proactive and sustained success. So, what pharmacotherapy options do we have in our arsenal? There's semaglutide, which is now the wonder drug that everybody is talking about. It's a GLP-1 receptor analog, which is now approved beyond the age of 12 years or at the age of 12 years. And it has shown that there's about 17.7 kg absolute change at the end of 68 weeks. That is the highest efficacy drug that has been introduced till date now, for which has been approved by US FDA for adolescents. So this requires weekly subcutaneous injections. There are GI issues. There are some percentages of cases where gallstones or some other complications have risen. Then there's liraglutide, again another GLP-1 analog which has to be given daily, which is again US FDA approved for ages about 12 years of age. And it leads to a robust change of about minus 4.5 kilo absolute change at the end of 56 weeks of trial. Now, rebound weight gain is known with this, but we'll come to that as well later. Orlistat, which is lipase inhibitor, basically it prevents fat absorption. It has also been approved, and it shows modest weight gain of about 0.5 to 1.5 kg per meter square reduction. Now, it is associated with a lot of GI intolerance side effects like steatorrhea, fecal incontinence, and this leads to a higher discontinuation rate. Then we have phentermine and topiramate. Phentermine has been approved beyond 16 years and topiramate above 18 years. The combination together has shown good benefit, but this is primarily reserved for children who are already indicated for these medications due to other disorders along with it. So again, the trial and the study has been short term for it. And then metformin, which has been used quite rampantly till date. It's approved for about 10 years of age for children with type 2 diabetes, and about 12 years of age for children with obesity. So it leads to less than 5% weight loss. But yes, this is another drug that has been primarily used. So out of this arsenal, I think if we have to talk about obesity medications, semaglutide, liraglutide are the drugs which show the maximum promise in near future. So why pharmacotherapy? Because we are now right now not treating a lifestyle change or lifestyle failing. We are now targeting the neuroendocrine pathology. GLP-1 receptor agonists target the satiety centers in the hypothalamus. So you're directly targeting the homeostatic drive. You're actually quietening the food noise because of that is usually there in hedonic eating. That is the mesolimbic system. And by decreasing hunger and slowing gastric emptying, you're also mechanically reducing the worry about binge eating and also promoting weight loss. Now, this doesn't just prevent and bring about weight loss, but has additional and very good synergistic effects even on other mechanisms like insulin resistance, uh, fatty liver changes, and many other systems. So, pharmacotherapy targets neuroendocrine pathology, and very importantly, it enables adherence to lifestyle modifications to it. So this landmark trial, STEP Trends trial, where semaglutide was used in adolescents, this compared to IHBLT therapy alone, which shows a flat BMI change. Now this shows about 17.7% BMI reduction at 68 weeks in children. So this is staggering. If you reduce your weight or if you are able to achieve this level of weight loss, most of the complications or most of the advancing comorbidities are going to nullify, and this is going to be a big win for us in the fight against this rampant childhood obesity. So what about medication costs, one may ask? Yes, the costs are pretty high at this moment. And as Indians, I think we all know that we have to pay upfront. We do not have insurance coverage for this. But we are today at this intersection where the drug patent is going to expire soon, and probably in the next month or so, we are going to come across so many pharmaceutical companies coming up with medicines which are introduced at a very affordable rate. So again, to tell this, again, cost is a very temporary market dynamic. But what are we weighing it against? We are weighing it against disease progression to diabetic neuropathy, nephropathy, cardiac surgeries, cardiovascular mortality, comorbidities. So here we are actually, the cost currently is a genuine hurdle, but it is not a medical contraindication. And our aim is to treat to prevent lifelong financial and physical burden. Again, one may ask if about the lack of long-term safety data. So yes, there are long-term theoretical long-term safety risks, and we haven't studied it enough. But we also know we have a very robust 30-year data which shows all the known devastating realities of untreated obesity. So we are looking at early cardiovascular remodeling, decades of insulin dependence, and premature mortality. So again, we know with 100% certainty what 30-year-old data looks like for untreated severe pediatric obesity. The risk of inaction in this case is much higher than the otherwise. Again, we are also worried about this fact that there is weight rebound after cessation of these drugs. So this proves that obesity itself is a chronic disease. If you would you dare to stop an asthmatic taking daily inhaler? Would you dare to stop in daily inhaler for a child who's got asthma? That child is going to have rebound wheezing. And if you do stop this daily inhaler, you are actually enabling decades of airway remodeling, leading to multiple comorbidities. So this proves that asthma is a chronic disease and requires lifelong or long-term therapy. If you want to stop, or if you end up stopping antihypertensives in a child or a person with hypertension, blood pressure is going to spike. So this again proves that it is a chronic disease. Similarly, pediatric obesity, the intervention being GLP-1 agonist, there is going to be rebound weight gain. That again proves that it is chronic disease, and these are expected realities of a chronic disease. So we do not, anything that we do, these interventions are going to only prove us that this is a chronic disease and we need to prove it and we need to treat it for a longer period of time. So again, these are the expected reality of managing a chronic relapsing neuroendocrine disease. So to end my statement, I would like to tell you that motivation alone might win a temporary battle against pediatric bulge, but medicating alongside motivating is how we win the lifelong war against a chronic relapsing disease. Thank you.
Anjali ma'am.
Yes, sir, over to you. Sir, please start.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's 9:46, so I hope we have time for the rebuttal. But before that, let me quickly share my screen and start my part of the argument. Hope my slides are visible. Can you see my slides?
Yes, Tushar, go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So, my worthy opponent, Dr. Ajinkya Patil, has rested his case. Now it's my turn to present the argument, and I totally refute medication in pediatric obesity, barring a few exceptions where I will agree with Dr. Ajinkya that there are absolute indications where pharmacotherapy is indicated, but barring those exceptions, I am strictly against pharmacotherapy and support motivating only. Let us see what is the definition of obesity. I think Dr. Ajinkya already mentioned that it's a chronic relapsing disease arising from complex interactions between genetics, neurobiology, eating behaviors, access to healthy diet, market forces, and the broader environment. This is the WHO definition. Let us see what all things are in our control and what are the things that we cannot control. Genetics, of course, it is beyond anybody's control. If you are born with genes such as MC4 or leptin deficiency or Alstrom syndrome, Beckwith-Wadman syndrome, then the obesity is very, very hard to control. Neurobiology. Imagine a person with hypothalamic conditions such as operated case of hydrocephalus or some hypothalamic tumor where the neurobiology is disturbed right from the beginning, and it's very, very hard to control these children with obesity with simple lifestyle interventions. But barring these two conditions, eating behaviors, they are up to a certain extent as a part of child development, they are controllable. Access to healthy diet, of course, we can control. Market forces and the broader environment, it is up to us pediatricians and policymakers to have our say in the environment and provide them with a safer and healthier environment so that this problem of obesity can be tackled well. So, treating simple obesity, what is the clinician's perspective? First is writing medicine, like Dr. Ajinkya said, takes less time. So giving out a prescription of semaglutide takes hardly 1 minute. External locus of control. So the drug is going to act for me, the drug is going to take care of my weight and I don't have to worry about it. ये दवाई ले लो सब ठीक हो जाएगा. So that is the external locus of control and takes away efforts and responsibility from the patient. Once the patient has a prescription for weight loss, then all the effort is simply lost and everything is now blamed onto the drug. कि वजन कम हुआ नहीं, मैंने दवाई लिया फिर भी वजन कम हुआ नहीं. And the medicine creates revenue for the fraternity. I need not go into the details, but you get my point, what revenue I am talking about. Teaching lifestyle, on the other hand, takes more time. It's very difficult to sit with the family, understand their concepts of diet, understand their habits of eating and exercising. It's very time-taking. Putting the control in the hands of the patient is very difficult. Internal locus of control. Nobody wants to take control. Everybody wants to blame. Blame government. When I myself am littering around on the road, I just simply blame the government for the unhygienic conditions. Put responsibility on the family. It's very difficult because many of the times the main stakeholders are not present in the clinic. And there is no revenue generation in teaching lifestyle. So that is the main problem, where lifestyle modification takes a back seat because there is no revenue involved. So on one hand, we have such idols promoting bad lifestyles, and there are shops that say smoking kills, and there are people who go to such shops and buy cigarettes. Same thing is happening with the medicine that we are prescribing. Big companies are now saying that, oh, my weight is not my fault, I need to go to the doctor and take help. So my question is, where were these pharma companies before the weight loss medicines were available in India? So why did they not provocate or go out in the public and mention about lifestyle modification? Until now, when the drug is available, all the there is sudden bombarding of issued in public interest just before launching these obesity medicines. Does lifestyle work? Of course. If the entire family along with the child is involved in the lifestyle modification, it works. Let's take an example of this. My own patient, between 2016 and 19, you can see that the BMI came down from 33 to 90. This is a real case that I have been following up, and post lockdown he did gain a little bit of BMI to around 2 kgs per meter square, but again with re-counseling and visiting the problems, the child could maintain the BMI below 27 adult equivalent. So it does work. The true only indications for pharmacotherapy, already mentioned by Dr. Ajinkya, is monogenic obesity, hypothalamic obesity, and class 2 or 3 obesity with comorbidities such as diabetes or PCOS or obstructive sleep apnea, where you are not going to wait for the lifestyle to work. By then the patient will have irreparable damage. But my point that I want to make here is 95% of pediatric obesity in clinical practice. For a pediatrician, you are going to see lifestyle related obesity for all practical purposes. Even for an endocrinologist, in my OPD, the contribution of monogenic or organic causes is not even 5%. So are we going to medicate these 95% children who simply require lifestyle modification? So there is a famous saying in Marathi, Aag Someshwari and Bamba Rameshwari. So the problem is lifestyle, and instead of correcting the lifestyle, we are treating these children with medicines. So the problems with medicating children, obesity is a lifestyle related disease, not a deficiency of drug. You are not giving iron for anemia, it's a drug. Children are not small adults. Simply because you have the drug approved as monotherapy in adults does not mean that it is safe and effective in children. The long-term safety and efficacy data is not available. So I'll give you an example how these approvals work. The insulin aspart, all of you are aware, I'll not take any brand names, but the aspart was approved as bolus therapy in diabetes for adults in year 2000. And it took 20 years for its approval in children. So a life-saving drug as simple as insulin aspart or Lispro, which is a bolus insulin for children, it took 20 years for getting approval. Whereas the semaglutide approved as monotherapy for obesity in children above 12 years, the adults got approval in 2021 and the pediatric approval was achieved in a matter of 1 year. So my question is, why so much hurried approvals when obesity is not killing you immediately? So obesity drug gets approval in 1 year, whereas life-saving insulin takes around 20 years for its pediatric approval. Is it safe? We don't know. These are the banned drugs that came into market, and within a matter of 1 year to 40 years, they got withdrawn from the market when the side effects were seen. And mind you, these were not even approved in pediatric age group. These were the medicines in adults, and due to side effects or the adverse effects, they were taken away from the market. Now let us talk the pediatric approved medicines. The Orlistat, you get very nasty steatorrhea, and children have embarrassing moments in the school where their underwear is soiled with oil if they have a fatty meal along with Orlistat. Liraglutide, nausea, vomiting, suicidal ideation. When we are saying that obesity is a disease where you have impaired cognition and there are some psychosocial factors, are we correct in subjecting these children to drugs like liraglutide or semaglutide, where you have the propensity towards suicidal ideation. I'll not go through the entire list, but you can get it online. The adverse effects are there. Two important things that I want to highlight. One is the GLP-1 agonist can affect mood. Now, why do we eat? We all eat food for nutrition, repair, growth, and last and foremost is the satiety. If you're taking away the pleasure out of food, the child or the adult is going to go into a depressed mood, and it is probably one of the reasons why patients who are put on GLP-1 analogs lose interest in surroundings and they feel depressed. This particular paper that I want to highlight, where they have shown that individuals, not children but adults, 1,62,000 individuals in each group, GLP-1 analog receivers versus non-receivers. What did they see? At 6 months, 1 year, 3 years and 5 years, the increased risk among GLP-1 users for major depressive disorder, anxiety and suicidal ideation or attempts. And look at the odds ratio, it's 2 to 3 times the non-users. And young participants, mind you, exhibited higher risk for suicidal ideation. And here we are giving it as a monotherapy for adolescents between 12 and 18. How many of us do a psychiatric evaluation before giving these drugs to these teenagers? And are we putting them into hazardous situation by giving them these drugs? Look at the comparative long-term weight loss of these drugs, and look at the dropouts. I am talking about the randomized control trials, where around 30 to 40% is the dropout rate in controlled environment. So in an ideal situation where everything is under your control, still there are 20 to 30% dropouts. In real world scenario, we don't know how much is the dropout rate for these drugs, which are very, very loaded with side effects. So higher dropout rates in real world scenario are due to costs, side effects and compliance. Nobody wants to take an injection for life. Long-term efficacy, there are rebounds after stopping the drug. Very, very common. Let's take an example of semaglutide. As long as you are taking the drug, you can see the percentage weight loss or the change in body weight to the tune of 15 to 18%. The moment you stop the drug, there is a vigorous rebound. So what are we achieving by giving drugs to these children when we know that as soon as you're going to stop the drug, the weight is going to go back to normal? You know what is the cost of semaglutide 2.4 milligrams? It is 16,000 per month. And you expect the family to keep on taking the drug for 5 or 8 or 10 years, spending 16,000 per month, which is simply not possible. I would rather opt for bariatric surgery than giving a drug like this costly for 10 or 20 years. And again, the rebound is not just for semaglutide, it's there for most of the drugs. The moment you stop, at 5 years, there is a rebound of anywhere to the tune of 70 to 80%. Where are we headed? We have seen that liraglutide and semaglutide is approved for children above 12 years, and then there are trials that come out where they have given liraglutide to children as young as 6 to 12 years. Where are we headed? Why are we subjecting our children to such drugs that are not safe? Let us see. This article is freely downloaded and it is funded by a company that makes this drug. Drug therapy. Are we supposed to give them lifelong medications, and at what cost? What economical cost and what health cost? These are the exercise recommendations. You all know about this. The dietary changes, you are all knowing this. So if we sit with the patients and the families, we teach them the portion sizes, the correct sequence of the buffet. We ask them to limit the fast food. This is all doable in a busy OPD if we have a good team. And Dr. Ajinkya was mentioning about team. I agree that in India we are less equipped. We don't have good tertiary care centers. We don't have good teams. But if we are not having good teams for education, do you expect the family to spend that much of money? And how many of us are going to afford? When we can't afford a doctor visit, a dietitian visit, how can we afford a drug as costly as semaglutide? This is what happens when the children go lost to follow-up on medicine or on lifestyle modification. Follow-up is extremely important. The family has to go back to the caregiver, else there is going to be rebound. No diet is perfect. There are so these 24 clinical trials showed that exercise without parents or diet with parents is equally effective, and the most important is diet, exercise and lifestyle to be followed by the entire family. And this is the latest clinical meta-analysis that I could get. Sadly, I'll show you one interesting fact that it's published in an article in a journal where I'm supposed to pay $28 to get the full access because it is based on lifestyle, whereas a meta-analysis of how to give liraglutide to children is freely downloadable. You are getting the point. So it's so easy and tempting to write medicine because you have such free access to information, whereas lifestyle we don't have access to information, not many good trials. So these are the limitations of the lifestyle modification trials, difficult to conduct on larger scale, have very high attrition rates, long-term follow-ups are not available. Mostly lifestyle modification studies are, for 3 years you will get the long-term data, not beyond that, and endpoints are vaguely defined. So these are the limitations of lifestyle modification studies. Why lifestyle modifications fail? Obesity is a psychiatric disease. Drastic lifestyle changes are ill-sustained. Lack of support from family, obesogenic environment that persists even when you are prescribing a medicine. If the obesogenic environment is not removed, the drug is not going to give you any results. The body responses to weight loss are different in different individuals, and most importantly, with lifestyle, there is a plateau phase that happens after 6 to 9 months, and if this plateau is not handled correctly, self-blame, doubt, am I not following good diet, इतना diet करके भी अभी वजन कम नहीं हो रहा है. They fail to understand that weight maintenance is also a strategy in pediatric obesity. So not being able to lose weight is often considered as the failure of lifestyle modification, whereas in pediatric age group, weight maintenance is a very, very successful strategy. Why lifestyle modifications also fail? Unrealistic expectations, over ambitious weight targets, unrealistic time frames. बहन की शादी में मुझे अच्छा दिखना है, so I need to lose weight. So weight loss for marriage and parties, that are the targets or the end goals for adolescents. So we have to set their expectations right, we have to set the time frames correct, and searching for endpoints is very, very wrong when it comes to lifestyle modification. Lifestyle has to be modified for life, whereas in drug therapy we seek for endpoints, not in lifestyle. If a child fails in the school, do we stop sending him to the school? It's my question to all of you. So if lifestyle modification fails, I'm not talking about comorbidities, I'm just talking about plain simple pediatric obesity, the lifestyle related obesity. So we sit with the child, we try and understand what went wrong, and we again send the child back to school. We simply do not put him or her away from the school. Similarly, the body's response to weight loss could be different. So weight loss is rapid in the beginning, slows down with time. Same diet won't give same results over a period of time. So we have to understand this. We have to understand why lifestyle modification is not helping beyond a point. We have to sit with the family. We have to explain to them the concepts of basal metabolic rate, how the appetite changes over a period of time, and we have to tell them that this kind of weight loss is dangerous. This is called the yo-yo type of weight loss. We don't want such kind of weight loss which is typical on drugs, whereas the lifestyle works something like this: very, very sustained, slow and sustainable weight loss. This is what we want, not the yo-yo effect, but the step ladder with plateaus. That is the sustainable weight loss that we teach to children with obesity. What are the characteristics of successful weight loss or maintenance? Eating breakfast daily, eating low calorie, low fat diets, consistent patterns on weekends and weekdays, very important. Self weight monitoring, consistent high level of physical activity, and regular follow up with weight loss consultant. Once obesity is there, whether you do lifestyle modification or take drugs, please remember that the family is suffering with a chronic disease. They have to keep going back to the doctor and having internal locus of control, very very important. Rather than depending on the drugs, the control has to be internal locus of control, then only the weight loss is going to be successful. So these are all the factors that help. Drug is merely one small minuscule portion, that too in very limited scope, but we have to take care of all these other problems. So weight loss requires consistent dietary efforts, psychological health, regular follow-up and family support, then only the weight loss will be sustainable. So there is a Chinese saying where they have said that give a man fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime, and teach a man to create an artificial shortage of fish and he will eat steak. So I'll modify this to suit my point today. Give medicines to for obesity and the child will keep taking them for life. Teach them healthy lifestyle and they will remain fit for life. So with this I conclude my end of the talk, and I thank the organizers for giving this opportunity. Over to you, organizers.
Dr. Rajesh Doshi sir for expert comment. Over to you.
Should we have a rebuttal first?
I think
Dr.
Ajinkya deserves a
Ajinkya?
chance. Yes.
No, so as I rightly stated at the start of my talk, by the end of this talk, I think we'll both be on the same side of science. But yes, I do agree with almost all of the points that Dr. Tushar Godbole sir stated. Lifestyle interventions, lifestyle modifications, dietary changes, persistent follow-up, persistent motivation is necessary, is ultimately needed. What I'm saying is, in children, even lifestyle-related obesity, who have established clinical severe obesity with advancing, or we know that there is a strong risk of comorbidities or already has some advanced comorbidities. This is where medications are not going to act as a band-aid. They are going to act as enablers while the child can lose some weight. And then during this period, I'm not saying we abandon the lifestyle therapies during this period. We in fact reinforce those more and more. And again, these children have to be targeted, taking risks and all the complications into consideration. We have to specifically choose children who are actually appropriate for drug initiation. Not everybody. It doesn't have to be given as a blanket prescription, but only as a targeted therapy. So yes. And about the dropout rates of the drug therapy as well, I would like to point out that even there was another trial, refresh clinical trial, which showed that there was only about 30 to 40% children who followed up, and the historical clinically meaningful BMI weight loss, or the weight loss which was clinically significant, was seen in only about 10 to 12% of those. So yes, while I'm in fact a staunch believer that lifestyle modifications have to be instituted, sometimes they need help of other medications to enable them in a better way.
Before Dr. Rajesh sir gives his expert comments, let me admit that my part of the talk was simple. Ajinkya's talk was much more difficult, promoting drugs in pediatrics. So I congratulate Ajinkya for taking the difficult part. Over to Rajesh sir.
Yeah. I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So good evening, Dr. Sanjeev Joshi, all dignitaries and all attending pediatricians. First, let me thank MAHA IIP and especially Dr. Jayashri Deshpande for inviting me as an expert in this debate. While I congratulate both the speakers for excellent debate, I would like to state that as Dr. Tushar has rightly pointed out, that this is a chronic disease, which has got many aspects to it. So the treatment, which is intense lifestyle modification and change in the behavior, should also be ongoing in the treatment of this disease, because there is a neurobehavioral aspect of this disease. Important thing is that the whole family should be involved, because what we usually see in my practice is whenever I tell about the changes in behavior, which is in the lifestyle, the diet and the physical activity, the parents keep on telling the child, हे बघ, हे तुला करायचंय, हे तुला करायचंय, हे तुला करायचंय. Yeah. And when we have the child in front of us who is obese, we also see that the parents are also obese. We know that with the childhood obesity, there are high chances that the parents are also obese. And therefore, we have to tell that the whole family has to be involved in the care, which means that the lifestyle, both the physical activity and the dietary modifications have to be done by the whole family. Having said so, is there a role for the drug? So yes, the recommendations are that if it is a severe obesity, which is a class 2 or class 3 obesity, which is associated with comorbidities, it many a times becomes impossible for the child to inculcate this and lifestyle changes because of a thing called as deconditioning. The parents will tell he is not able to exercise. I take him for a walk for 5 to 10 minutes and he becomes breathless. Yeah, when I tell him to eat in a healthy diet, he is not able to do that. So that is called deconditioning. So in these extreme cases where the lifestyle may not work, it may be a good idea, to use these drugs for some time. However, as Dr. Tushar has said, that with the use of these drugs, the intense lifestyle modification, which has to be done by motivational interviewing. What does it mean by motivational interviewing? Is whenever we treat these children, we tell them ki he kara, हे खाऊ नका, एवढं exercise करा. So what we do a prescriptive approach, whereas what we should do is we should tell them that these are the problems which includes, say, eating of junk food, which includes, say, screen time, which includes, say, inadequate sleep, and ask them what changes you can make, what is suitable for you, what is possible for you to do. And we should start slowly, and as they gain acceptance that we can do this for our child, we should progress further. So that is called as a motivational interviewing and giving them changes according to what they want rather than a prescriptive approach. And these drugs will help to stabilize the weight or decrease the weight, during which this intensive lifestyle can be applied, and then it could be successful. And as this is a relapsing and recurring disease for the whole, for a long time, this motivation, it is a very important motivation should be there to for this lifestyle changes. So I would again congratulate both the speakers for excellent deliberation. Thank you.
Anjali madam.
Anjali madam.
And video can start.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Actually, there is one question in the chat box. If you can take that. So I'll just read it out. How to cultivate awareness and acceptance about obesity is the most difficult one. Please enlighten all of us on this aspect. Any one of you can take it up. Yeah, thanks.
So to cultivate it, I think it has to be family based, and it has to start right from addressing all the environment. So not just the family, the school environment, the surroundings, and public policy making as well. We've taken a small step towards this in the last week on 4th of March, where we launched the IMA Childhood Prevention Obesity, Childhood Obesity Prevention Project, where we have created a school module where we are targeting schools, going to schools, teaching them about healthy eating, about what to avoid, how to read labels correctly and carefully, and how to inculcate these values. And we've also created a WhatsApp channel, where we can directly target parents who can follow it, and they can get some posts, weekly posts, where they can easily understand, and this can go all and penetrate all the houses and families. So this is one approach. I think Dr. Tushar can add more to it.
I agree with Dr. Ajinkya. It has to start from the schools. I think children are the only hope for our society. I think we cannot change adults anymore. And IAP is doing a great job. IMA is now joining. So we should all go to the schools and create awareness. And of course, the policy making advocacy has to also happen at the government level. Sadly, even if we have the rules and regulations in place, there are still things like packaged food being sold right outside the schools. Whereas in reality, we have rules to curtail that. So I think policy making advocacy has to go hand in hand, and we should start from the schools.
Rajesh sir, do you want to say something? Your expert
Yeah,
comment?
so we are living in a obesogenic environment. Yeah, so there is enough high calorie food are available at such a cheap price. Yeah, so all this in a packaged food. So maybe we should have some restrictions on that. How much that is successful, I don't know, because if you see for today, there is no need for preparation of homemade food. You can just go outside, bring a packet and give that as a snack to your child. So when we were small, there's homemade snack food used to be made. Yeah, and we hardly ate outside. But nowadays, most of our children, families are eating outside. So there should be some on this aspects, it should be also thought.
So thank you so much. Anjali madam, can I take over? Anjali madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the end of very excellent session and at the end of a session, it's time for us to express our gratitude. So on behalf of our organizing team of Bal Sakhi Sanjeevani, we sincerely express our gratitude towards our expert, Dr. Joshi sir, to esteemed speakers, Dr. Ajinkya and Dr. Tushar Godbole. Here, I just wanted to say two things that we have learned a new nomenclature. I never knew that the obesity is a chronic disorder and a neurobehavioral. So, and it was a very nice for Ajinkya to say that it's a pervasive crisis. So that is really a new things which we have learned. And Tushar, I totally agree with you that Ichha Tithe Marga. So lifestyle modification does work and you lose a weight fast, but you have to maintain that. That is a strategy that is very important. So with that, thank you so much for your expert comments, which really enlightened. I mean, which really gave us insight and practical perspectives with so much of on a paper and publications which you have shown us. And thanks to Dr. Sonone, Anjali Sonone for excellent moderation. We have to thank our MMC observer for granting us an MMC point. And we thank Pallavi madam for the technical help. And nevertheless, it's our audience or the attendees who are attending this very much insightful webinar. We thank you, our dignitaries of Maharashtra IAP as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and have a lovely weekend ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
बंद झालं मीटिंग संपली.
Meeting is complete.